So today, we just wanted to get together, me and Mr. C. Myers, Myers Bros Flips, some of you guys might know him as. There's probably a slew of other names I've called him while I'm in the bathroom, but me and him are going to take some time today on a serious note to share with you guys what we learned at the last event we went to, what got us there, what we learned while we were there, and what's kind of got us fired up being back. So I don't know if you want to start, Cody, and just give a little bit of information on not what you got from the event, but what got you there. So were you planning on going? Was it an invite thing? Like a lot of people, or I guess the average person, doesn't really go to a wholesale real estate personal development event all wrapped into one. So for somebody who's like, bro, why do I give a fuck about what event you guys went to? What would be like kind of the backstory to what got you to the event? So I just want to speak on that.
Yeah, I originally wasn't going to go. I knew that some guys from the office were going, and so I was like, well, I don't really have the extra funds to go, but I'm going to reach out to Dakota. And then I was like, hey, dude, do you care if I go? Like, I don't know how I would do it, but like, he's like, yeah, dude, like, you're the videographer, and we'll get you taken care of. So that's kind of how the story went for me going. But yeah,
pretty quick. It's kind of funny too, because it never feels like the time or the finances are right. It's always like, it would be very easy, I think, not just for me, but everybody that went, to be like, yeah, I got all that shit going on. Like, that doesn't really make sense for me right now. And also, like, I'm already spending a lot of money on personal development and books and all this coaching shit that we're doing. And so, that would have been easy to be like, yeah, it's the cost and the time, and those are two reasons why I can't go. And literally in a 10-second spiel, you just mentioned how literally you didn't give a crap. Like, those were two reasons, though. You just worked through them, and then, hey, you ended up going. So
yeah, I'm glad I went.
So that being said, then, it didn't feel like you had the money, and then it also felt like it was kind of like, I don't really know if I'm supposed to go. Now on the other side of it, how do you feel about those thoughts? Like, do you feel like you kind of were right about that? Maybe you shouldn't have went? Or are you more like, bro, what the fuck was I thinking? It was obvious I should have went, because now, like, how does that feel?
Yeah, I'd say it was pretty obvious that it was good that I went, because, like, just, being there with you guys and, like, being around those kind of people is, like, huge for anybody. I feel like most people are just like stuck in their bubble, they're 9 to 5 or they're home and they don't really get out. So I'm glad I went. I got a lot from it, and yeah. How about you?
You think it was worth I'll answer that, not to ignore you, but do you think it was worth, I don't even know how much you paid to come here or how much the cost was, but was it worth the money, or
100%.
Right on par with the cost, or what?
Yeah, I would say everything was worth it, from like just like the camaraderie. Is that the right word?
Camaraderie?
Camaraderie.
I think that's a word.
With you guys and the people we met there, from the workout, just like the talks we all had, like all 3 or 4 nights we were there. Like, I think it was definitely worth it.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Not to jump right in the middle for me, but that is one thing I've noticed in every, I was going to say in every event, but every time I've went to any kind of event like that, even if we didn't go to any conferences or meet anybody that was doing anything good, we still could have just hung out in the hotel room, and I probably could have got enough value from that. Yeah. Just because, I remember the first time, this sounds really weird, but I learned, what different types of meals to make and how to prepare those, and what times I should eat, and how different things I should work. I've been working out for everyone kind of, says they know the stuff, but I have a lot of lifting, workout knowledge. I go hang out with a couple people who I would have considered equal or lesser than, and then those people are giving me new workout tips, and I'm like, wow, that is exactly what I needed. And I wasn't humble enough to approach it that way of hey, these guys can really help me and I can help them. I was more kind of these guys are these guys, but let's go to the event. So it is funny how just being in the same room with guys that want to win, all of a sudden there's value that gets created just from talking, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, it's crazy how there's so many different conversations that you would have there, we had there, that just don't happen all the time here. We have awesome conversations and networking here, but it's like, yeah, I don't know what it is. Just flying Arizona, being in like super nice weather around those people, like it was awesome.
It's almost like it sounds kind of cliche, but it's almost like literally just changing the environment.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden you're thinking new thoughts and having new feelings and getting creative again. So that's what I would say. For me, like going back to the beginning, it got a call and it was an invite. Hey, we should go to this event. In my head, I'm like, yeah, you're probably right. We probably should.
Mm-hmm.
And then within 2 days, I'm looking at my calendar and I'm like, bro, this is a mistake. Like, I got so much to do. This is not a good idea. I'm going to mess up a lot of things and people and places if I decide to just skip town and head out for 4 or 5 days. So for me, I could have used every excuse in the book. I did have the money to do it, but I could have easily said, this is not the best use of my money right now. And then obviously now coming back, it's like I would have spent 10 times that amount and stayed 10 times longer to get the half the value that I got. And so before I get into any of that, I guess, do you want to talk about takeaways? Like what kind of like 1 or 2 things specifically that you got from the event and or how that might help people that didn't get to go?
Yeah. For me personally, as a videographer, like, it was just really nice to see people on like a different level that know how to like actually make viral content and like how to do all that. So I had a lot of like takeaways from Eric Klein's videographer and a couple of the other social media and videographer guys. Mm-hmm. I learned a lot of like how to build like a business on social media, not just from like the views and like cool videos, but like from an actual business standpoint of like how to like step by step do it. So that was like number 1 for me.
Were the guys like when you say you learned that, were they literally on stage and they're like, hey, here's how you can make a viral video, or how did you learn that?
No.
What did they do, or how'd that happen?
So like it was just like behind the scenes. Like I'm filming behind the scenes of the crowd and the speakers on stage. And in between, I would just talk to these guys, and then, there was a couple days too, like where we had the opportunity to talk to each other and, exchange phone numbers and Instagram, and so we can connect that way. So. And
not to make it sound too simple, but I mean, you literally just start asking them, hey, like, how do I accomplish X? And then, sure enough, they're like, here's how I did it. And simple as that.
Yeah, which is like pretty crazy that you can just. I mean, we're all humans, but it's like we feel like we can't like always do that, but you can. You can just be like, hey, how do you do X to achieve this? And most of the time, it seems like you're going to get that answer.
Yep, it's funny too, because people talk like I used to be that way. I used to want to hide good ideas. Like, bro, I don't want to tell anybody because then somebody might steal the idea. And it's the same thing with what the guys were telling you out there. It's like, bro, 99.9% of people are going to take everything that they told you and shit it down the drain and never use it, never implement it.
Yep.
And so it's like, I'll tell everybody because I don't know. I know you're not going to do what it takes. So who cares if you know?
Yeah, 100%.
And so it's more of like, an abundance mindset thing, but that's a pretty good point.
Yeah.
The number 1 thing I would say I learned from the Andy Elliott, Eric Klein wholesaling real estate event, it literally actually, it's funny because I'm obsessed with systems and processes and, kind of how things work like that, but I did learn a lot in that realm. But the biggest impact I kind of took from the event had to do with like how I showed up for my family and how I showed up for my girlfriend at home. Mm-hmm. It's pretty crazy because Andy Elliott specifically talked about this, and I've kind of heard it said before of like a lot of people, myself included in the past, feel like they don't get the support they want from their family, but every day they come home from work and bitch or complain about work and say, oh, this is effed up at work. So like if my wife came home or a girlfriend came home and every day she's like, man, this place is hard and it sucks and this and that person did that and said that, like why would I sit there and encourage her to go? And why would I want to bring her lunch? And why would I want her to stay extra hours? I would actually vote against that. I would want her out of there as quick as possible. And so for me, not that I go home and complain every day, but I do want to be a lot more mindful. Like, if I'm expecting or desiring support from her, and I'm going home and talking crap about how I feel about my day, like, she loves me and she wants to see me happy. So I need to show up a little differently in the sense of, like, the way I talk about work and then the way I show up for her when I'm done with work.
Right.
Yeah,
he mentioned, Andy was talking about, that was another big takeaway for me. It was like, giving it your all to your work, and then like you get home and you're just giving your wife and kids the leftovers,
Yeah.
And that hit me pretty hard. I was like, dang, like I do that sometimes. And I think a lot of us do.
Yeah, and I think that is for one thing I'd say for someone who A, has like obviously didn't go to this event, or B, has never even been to like a personal development or real estate event period, was that you literally can have it all. Like life isn't necessarily going to be balanced to where 25% of the time you're working, 25% it's with family, 25% you're praying. Like, it's not going to work like that. But I know that if I'm at work for 12 hours and I'm actually here and focused here, and then I go home for 2 and I'm only home for 2, but for those 2 hours I'm very intentional. I walk in the door and I'm like, hey, where's my girl at? Like, I want to celebrate her. I want to see how her day's going. I want to hug her and like think about intentionally giving her my energy. That 2 hours is going to be way more impactful than if I just stayed home and hung out all day and just kind of was half-assed there. You know, so that was the biggest thing, is I did not realize how much I was leaving on the table at home or even at work. Like, I'm half present here too, because I'm like, well, I got to get home and make her happy, and then when I get home and make her happy, now I'm like thinking about the stuff I didn't get done because I wasn't present all day at work. So the event really showed me, like Andy kind of reminded me actually, like, you can have it all. You just have to decide and then continue to show up that way. Yeah. And that kind of blew my socks off because I forgot how possible it was to be a good man. Like, I'm going to kick your ass at work, and then I'm going to go home and I'm going to love my wife even harder. And I'm going to do it better than the next guy. And it's not about, like, competing, but, like, that is the desire I have. Like, I want to show up. And it's just, like, hopefully, I guess, if you're around the right people, that'll inspire them to do the same instead of, like, make them think that I'm a weirdo for wanting to love my wife harder than them. Or my girlfriend. So it's just weird.
I think you pretty much answered the question I have, but what do you think Andy said was the way to have it all? I think you just answered it, but
he one thing he said was I actually watched a YouTube video with Andy yesterday. It was an hour long, and he actually said he preaches this at every time he speaks, which is to be where your feet are. And that is kind of what I just said, of like, hey, if you're at work, be at work. And then when you go home, actually be there. Like, what? And it's kind of funny too, because like you think, if I'm thinking back to who did I want Ryan to be last night when he was at home? Did I want Ryan to walk in half excited, greet the puppies, say hi to my girlfriend, take a quick shower, eat dinner, go to bed? Like, no, that is not what I want is to go home. Hey, where's my girlfriend at? How was her day doing? Like, how are we doing? Did I show up for her today? Is there anything I can do to help her? What are we eating for dinner? Can I help with dinner? Is there anything she needs from me for that? Like, actually show up and be there for her. And then, like, sure, I still got to shower and take care of myself, but outside of getting all the quick little things done for me, I would have wished yesterday that I literally was just there being very intentional with her and with my family so that, when I come back, I can be here and feel good about that. But, most people don't do that. You go home and, so I don't know. I'm kind of like saying the same thing over and over again, but...
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, be where your feet are. Simple as that. It's a simple concept.
Yeah.
But it's not easy.
Another thing I always, I was going to say I always forget, but every time we seem to do an intense workout, I kind of get reminded of like how hard I'm not working.
Yeah.
And I'm like, shit, I need to do more cardio and do more, like I could actually do more reps at the gym, and I'm not doing more reps, and I probably could work a little bit harder at work. And so I think it's good, events like that are good to go to remind you of almost what you're not doing. Because a lot of those, you don't really ever go to these events and then people are like, hey, here's 600 secrets that like you had no clue even existed.
Yeah.
It's more like very successful people get on a stage and they remind you of all the shit you already know you need to be doing. It's not,
and you're like, oh yeah, duh, I should be doing that.
Yeah, I just needed a rich guy with a nice watch on stage to tell me, I guess. And so it's funny how we all get caught up and yeah.
That's funny. That's so funny because I felt the same way during the workout. I'm like, yep, I could be working a lot harder.
Yep, absolutely. And then going back to like being intentional at home, it's the same thing today. Like today, do I wish yesterday in the gym I would have went a little bit harder? Yeah, I do. I really do. Even though I was trying to be intentional yesterday, thinking back, I'm like, well, I probably could have did a couple more reps and put another 5 on the bar. And so it's just little stuff like that. But for like, let's just say somebody doesn't have an event to go to, there's nothing on their calendar. How would they, what's a way that they could learn that, I guess, or figure that out? Like maybe they're watching this and they're like, okay, yeah, that's great, but I don't have $800 to go to some Arizona bald-headed short shorts, titties popping out. Like I don't have time to go see all that. So like what can I do for me, someone like me? What would you tell that person, or like what would you recommend to them?
Well, I mean, I would say like there's YouTube and stuff, but like obviously you can learn a lot from there, but it's similar to where you still have to implement it. You might not get as much emotion tied to it, but YouTube, I mean, there's like, local meetups like the RIA, Real Estate Investors Association, like that. What do you think? Because that's all I can think about right now.
For me, I would say, obviously, I would help, or we would help, anybody on the crew, like LTD squad. If there's any type of questions anyone had or guidance when it comes to that. I'm not a life coach necessarily, but I do think we could help. And then the second thing I would say, which I've hit on it a lot, but even though it kind of goes back to having faith and belief, but I've heard it defined this way a lot lately in my life, and that faith isn't faith if you can see it. Faith is real when you can't. So one thing my coach David Meltzer has even said is real faith is when reality is showing you the opposite of what you thought you were going to get, but you still believe that what's right for you is right for you. And so like what I would say is like, if you aren't sure you can be successful, is to literally make the choice that you are going to be. And then even though the evidence is saying the opposite, like I have debts and bills and fears and I don't know what to do and I'm scared, like the list goes on and on. Even though that's the evidence, to keep the faith that you still actually are that and just not let go. I've never seen anyone hold that for a long enough time period and not get what they wanted. I've never ever seen that. Most of the time if they don't get there, it's because, well, I couldn't and I didn't and I wasn't sure, instead of just, hey, even though those things are true, I'm still going to show up here regardless. And so that's what I would say is like, literally you have to believe it's true and have faith that it's real when the evidence is showing you it's maybe even the opposite. And that can be scary, but it's almost like blind optimism. That's what I would say.
Man, you just reminded me of a quote I heard today. Let's see if I can remember it. I think it said, how can I tell my kids to dream if I give up on my own?
One thing Andy Elliott actually also talked about was how, like, when it comes to investing, especially for people in real estate, man, we're all like, oh yeah, put some money in, like whether it's a property or an investment or whatever. We put money in here and then we get it out here and it's 1x, 2x, 3x return. One thing that was talked about in this event is how personal development is like 1,000x return. And so like it could literally be $1 million that you put into yourself. That is going to be 1,000x if you actually are intentional with it and you develop and grow yourself with the $1 million investment you just made. But
Right.
it kind of, it just reminded me of like, hey, bro, like the personal development stuff, it's never convenient. It's never $13. It's normally somewhere between $500 and $1,000 to do something like that.
Yep.
And every single time I'm learning ways to make, I mean, it sounds dramatic, but millions of dollars. Like I'm leaving events and with just that event information I learned or the personal development I had or figured out, I can literally now with that same info go make $1 million.
Yeah.
To me, that's worth $500. And so that's kind of been like an LTD thing where, we do want to focus on that because Dakota's mentioned like how important it is and what it's done for him. But I do not think people really, myself included, that they understand how real that is. It is going to cost money, it is going to take time. But as you kind of said earlier, like you have no clue what you're going to take back and how your life can just completely shift with a $500 ticket being in a random room in Arizona.
Yeah.
So when it comes to like personal development that we've, not only this event but all the other ones we've done. What would you say is like my reason to go? Obviously, part of it is the camaraderie, like you said, but also, hey, every time I go, I seem to things seem to massively shift when I get back. So like that would be my advice for people that are like, I don't really know. Do you have a recommendation for people that are like, hey, like couldn't I just read a book or like watch a YouTube video? Like, what's the difference?
Yeah. Yeah, that's where it's hard for me, because you could, but like he said, like when I go, like when I left, I've been to a couple seminars now, and whenever I go and I come back, it just sparks so many different like ideas and like actual like tangible things I can start implementing like right away. Like when I read a book, I'm like, oh, that's cool information. Like I don't really like always implement stuff right away when I read and like do YouTube. It's mostly entertainment for me. But when I go places, I'm actually like looking to like get information and make changes, and I tend to do that. So it like actually helps my real life.
Yeah. It seems more real too when they're like when there's someone there. Like books are great, so the author probably does get the benefits of whatever they're trying to tell you to do, but when you see like multiple people in a room that are like, hey, I'm kind of reading or kind of going off a script or kind of giving you information that I could have put in a book, but I'm also here like literally expressing it to you and telling you it's real. And then it also like reminds me of when you go to those events too, and people like Andy Elliott, who's made hundreds of millions of dollars in just sales training alone, and then you see his team and where they came from and how they act and where they used to be, it reminds you of like, oh crap, like these guys are not aliens. Like a lot of them worked the same job I was working a couple years ago, and now they're literally on stages like screaming and having these huge events, and it's like how does it just doesn't even seem real. And then you go out and meet them, and you're like, not to sound like egotistical, but you're like, I could fucking do that. Like why am I not doing that? That's so possible.
Yeah, they're not much any different than us. They just chose different actions.
And what's funny too is a lot of times they're even more scared. Like I'm not. I when I hear it, I'm like, yeah, that sounds like I'm gonna do it. But when they first heard it, they're probably like, shoot, man, I don't even know.
Yeah.
So there a lot of times they're more afraid than we even are, and they still push through, and they're still there.
Yeah, they probably didn't think that they were the ones in their family, and they still get scared when they go on stage. They still get nervous, just like us.
Yep.
So.
Yep. It is funny how you think everybody has it all together. And then, like, even since I've had some social media posts lately, I've had people that message me and they're like, "Oh, it's really nice to see like everything's going great." And I'm like, "Bro, you have no idea what kind of mess I'm dealing with every day." Like,
everything's not perfect.
no, it's actually the opposite. But yeah, that's part of why we get the results we do. So, well, that is a little bit about some of the things we took from the event we just went to. If you guys have any questions, concerns, or there's anything we can actually help with, I don't sit here in front of a camera just to like for clout. I have 1,000 followers. I don't really give a crap about that. I actually want to help people that don't believe something is possible. I literally want to help people believe that. So, I mean, do a favor for me. If there's anything I can literally help you do or help you figure out or guide you through, annoy me because selfishly, I want to help you with it. So if there's any event questions, any way I can help you get to some type of personal development event, same thing for Cody. I'm sure he'd love to help you. But please let us know.